Excuse me, miss. I couldn't help but notice you're trying to get to Deke Animation Studios. Well, I'm Gus Polinski, the low-budget animation king of the Midwest. You know, my famous hits, Inspector Gadget, and the unaired pilot for American Sailor Moon, and Polka, Polka, Polka. I'm in my own cartoon now. It's called John Candy, and it's gonna get discussed on the Animates today.
What character were you playing there? Was that John Candy?
That was Gus Polinski. That was Gus Polinski, the Polka King from Home Alone.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten what that character's name was. He sounded very Canadian.
Oh yeah. Well, John Candy is Canadian,
Yes.
and that just blends really well with Midwestern inflection they're going with.
I mean, it was certainly a vast step up from your Watson accent from our Sherlock Holmes episode, which recently I was watching that episode on YouTube after it was uploaded, and they gave me the automatic captions. And finally, I was able to decipher what you were saying at the start of the episode because their closed caption did it for me, which, you
kind of just ran with it.
It deciphered everything you were saying, so it's more power to it. It's better than I am, apparently.
Well, I mean, if you don't know what I was saying in the first place, how can you be positive the captions were correct? Is my question.
I have every confidence in the YouTube captions.
It's not much, but it's honest work.
Yeah. What are we talking about this week? The Planes, Trains, and Automobiles cartoon.
It's funny you say that because this was originally intended to be an adaptation of The Great Outdoors. Before they changed the concept up enough that it simply became Camp Candy, the topic of our discussion this week. An animated series in which John Candy, as an animated depiction of himself, runs a summer camp. And you would think hijinks ensue, but to be perfectly honest, it's rather tame.
Yes, it's mostly about his daily running of the camp. It's mostly disaster-free. It's pretty much what you would expect to go on at a normal camp run by a semi-incompetent actor. But the interesting you say about the Great Outdoors cartoon, because I definitely got Great Outdoors vibes from it, right from the opening sequence. Presumably that was cancelled because they couldn't get Dan Aykroyd. He must have been busy flogging his Crystal Skull vodka on every chat show he could get onto.
Oh, totally. Well, the thing is, I watched Great Outdoors kind of in preparation for this, and John Candy's more like the straight man in that cartoon, so that's not a very fun character to make animated, I don't think. I think they kind of just messed with the concept a bit, so John Candy could be a bit more the clown that people would theoretically pay for.
I guess so. I've not seen The Great Outdoors for many a year, actually. I just remember the bald-headed bear. That's my main memory of that film. I can't really remember anything else about it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not actually like a huge John Candy guy. I think his career is a bit more fascinating than like one that I'm like, not that I'm like, oh, I hate these movies. I guess I have a morbid fascination with comedians who died a bit young, because you can kind of just imagine the trajectory that their career would have taken. It's just interesting to be like, what would Phil Hartman, John Candy, and Chris Farley, which comedies would they be taking the place of today?
Feeling like John Candy would now be like, he would have transitioned into sort of serious roles, because he's actually a really good actor. And I
could totally see that.
Yeah, like perfectly. Like he'd be playing like grizzled detectives in like some sort of TV show, I imagine now, or something.
Kind of pulling a John Goodman in Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Like I think John Candy has enough range that he would be taking on different roles now. I don't think he would still be doing wacky comedies.
Yeah. So you're saying Camp Candy wouldn't still be airing to this day?
I highly doubt it. I think we're more likely now to get Camp Aykroyd, in which he enslaves the children to filter his Crystal Skull vodka.
What? Did I tell you about Crystal Skull vodka?
Dan Aykroyd told me about Crystal Skull vodka. He barged into my house as I was trying to close the door on his face, and he was like, "Martin, you've got to buy this vodka. You've got to hear all about it." And then he forced his way
Because
in,
I
and it's
gotta.
still here.
My aunt got me a bit of it for Christmas, and I'm trying to
Oh wow.
remember if I told you about it or if I told someone else about it.
No, you didn't tell me that you'd received it as a gift. No.
I've got it right here next to me at the
Oh
moment,
wow.
actually.
Is
Not that
Dan
I.
forcing you to do this? Is he there? Like, just flog the damn
I
drink, Tommy.
Hi, I'm Tommy of the Animates, and I never start Animates Record without a fifth of Crystal Skull vodka to numb the pain of watching Mutant League for the fifth time. Don't you want to be prepared to endure Sherlock Holmes in the 22nd century? Crystal Skull vodka. Um, so what's this show about?
How is the Crystal Skull vodka? Have you tried it?
I'm no connoisseur, and I really can't do liquor just like straight.
Hmm.
But it gets the job done. I've been using it pretty sparingly. It's my understanding it's pretty expensive, so I'm not just gonna go mix it with Shasta or
Well, of
anything.
course,
But
he filters it through crystals.
I
Of course,
have
it's
my doubts.
expensive.
He puts it into a proton pack and like spurts it back out.
Where is he? Where is he getting all these crystals from? Does he own some sort of crystal mine somewhere? This is like a supervillain level scheme.
I see. My mom like read me this article. She was like super into it. Our story. All right. Creativity is at the heart of everything we do. It is why we craft the purest, smoothest vodka with one-of-a-kind packaging and imaginative thinking. Crystal Head uses only the highest quality ingredients to create unique expressions of ultra-premium vodka that are completely additive-free. We do it for all the creative spirits who think differently, to inspire them in their creative pursuits and bring out their creativity without compromise. Unlike other vodka brands, Crystal Head views the world differently without limitations. The Crystal Head bottle was designed by the creative spirit and mind by creative people. Together, Dan Aykroyd and John Alexander designed the iconic skull-shaped bottle as a symbol of life, reflecting power and enlightenment. Only the best to hold their multi-award-winning spirit.
Good for him.
They use the word creative a lot in that. I feel like we could have punched that up a little.
They need Grammarly.
I'm Dan Aykroyd. Since childhood, I have been fascinated with vodka.
But not to the children of Camp Candy, which we're desperately dancing around because it's kind of cute and not much else.
Well, I'm interested to see why it came about, why someone proposed to John Candy that this would be a great idea and why he went along with it, because it seems to me like John Candy at this point in his career, very well-known actor, done quite a few things. I guess this was before or around the time of Cool Runnings. Not sure what else he was doing around this time. I think it was after Nothing But Trouble, which maybe he was trying to forget about. And then he somehow ended up in this. And someone was like, "Hey, John, why you be in this cartoon? You're in a camp." And he was like, "Well, sure, I'll do that for you." And he's just such a nice man that he did it for free, and they kept roping him into it. Because
I do notice the first thing I thought of was this aired. I had to double check. This aired the same year as Hammerman, the MC Hammer superhero cartoon. So celebrity endorsements were like all the rage.
I see. I thought you were going to segue into John Candy appeared in Hammerman in some way for a moment there.
If only. I mean, for all I know, perhaps that's a. I remember when Black Panther was like first coming out, there was like one of those like really strawman-y articles that were like not articles, but posts that was like, "You say black superhero like it's a new thing," and it was going over all these like really esoteric examples, and it like I feel like it kind of did a better job of proving that this is the biggest black superhero we've had, because one of their first examples was Hammerman.
Interesting story about Hammerman. That was on when like I was in school, and I remember some kids talking about watching Hammerman. To my mind, Hammerman was a cartoon about like a cartoon hammer or a man who dressed up as a giant hammer, and it was like very tool based. That was how I visualized it in my head, and I still do to this day. There you go. Trivia from my youth.
And we finished up toasting marshmallows on top of Pyro Peak. But after a while, I had this nagging feeling that something wasn't quite right. Sure enough, when we got back to Camp Candy... Say, kids, did we order these other boxes?
Wow! Check out Camp Candy! Now this almost makes the wilderness seem civilized.
How did they afford him? How did they afford John Candy? How did Deke, which have you heard the axiom Deke stands for do it cheap, because they were incredibly cheap.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh my
actually,
god.
that was just like a joke from people who dislike Deke, I think. But yeah, they cheap out a huge amount, Deke. They didn't put a lot of effort in because they were just churning out stuff in the 90s. It's just like one thing after the other. They bought up all these properties and every like movie adaptation and everything they could get their hands on. And they were not known for spending money.
they were making those big Inspector Gadget bucks, so they were like on top of the world.
Well, I think that's it. They had like a couple of flagship series. They had Inspector Gadget was their first one. I think they had Real Ghostbusters was hugely popular. But other than that, it wasn't like they didn't have a massive amount of hits, I don't think.
It's weird because I was weirdly just yesterday watching kind of a mini documentary about Inspector Gadget. It's do you know Knickknacks on YouTube?
It sounds familiar.
It's this guy who's like doing a decently length video devoted to everything that's ever aired on Nickelodeon, and he was talking about Inspector Gadget, and he was talking about how it was he basically became the Deke mascot. He was like their Mickey Mouse, which it was always strange to me because Deke had so many like properties, and because Inspector Gadget was their most popular character, he would just kind of show up. Like there's this kind of infamous main menu for a Super Mario Brothers DVD that has Inspector Gadget as its guide. It just feels so random and strange. Like, there's this just like he's like telling you how to use the menu. He's like, use the button to select your favorite episode of the Super Mario Show. Go to the settings to turn on subtitles for the cartoon.
I mean, they did churn out a lot of Inspector Gadget and Inspector Gadget spin-offs and sequel series, didn't they? That is that is their primary thing, yeah. And on top of that, they just seemed to buy up whatever they could, get a season out there, and then that was it, and they moved on to something else. Like I always remember a lot of the G.I. Joe fan base is kind of bitter towards Deke because Deke came in like Sumbo, who were the original like 80s animation studio for G.I. Joe, who did an amazing job, put a lot of effort in, like spent like legitimate money making it good. After they brought out G.I. Joe the movie in 1987, they were sort of gearing up for a third season, and Deke came in and made Hasbro a new offer and were like, we will basically pay you to be able to do G.I. Joe because we want it as one of our properties. And they kind of just undercut Sumbo and stole it, and just made G.I. Joe like incredibly cheap. That series is kind of frowned. It's not terrible, but it's like compared to the original series, it's very low quality. I associate Deke with just being like, they just cheap out on everything, and they've got no morals, and they don't really do it for the love of animation. It's just they want to make a quick buck and get out of there.
I feel like everyone has like a 2-degree away of resentment from Deke because they've just touched so much. Yeah. And for me, it's that they did the original English dub of Sailor Moon, which is a very gay anime, but they tried to straight wash everybody so that Sailor Uranus and Neptune, who are gay lovers in the original Japanese, were cousins in the dub. except they couldn't remove all the subtext. Like they were still very clearly longing for each other, so they just kind of wound up creating something wildly incestuous and disturbing.
Well done, Dick.
Well done.
Another triumph.
Use the button to censor these gay couples in Sailor Moon. I know.
Very good impression.
Thank you.
But back to Camp Candy, which I guess we have very little to say about because it's harmless enough. It doesn't blow you away in terms of writing, animation, or anything really. It's pretty standard. It's impressive that they got so many episodes out of the show.
I know. 40, which is like 3 times some of the best shows we've reviewed on here, honestly. You could watch I think you could watch Mighty Max, all of Mighty Max twice in the time you spend watching Camp Candy once.
Yeah.
It's weird to me that all the kids call John Candy just John.
I thought that
As
too,
a teacher, as a teacher, I'm really offended. I wonder if they thought Mr. Candy sounded kind of weirdly suggestive or something.
I guess he's technically not a teacher, is he? He's like a camp counselor.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe I haven't been to summer camp since I was a child, which is after this show aired. But I feel like you would have called him like Counselor John or something, or Scoutmaster John, something to that effect.
Yeah.
I
mean, those kids, they seem to live permanently at the camp because this is 3 seasons. Have they gone home at any point? I saw one of the episode titles was about like the parents coming to the camp, so I assume they do have parents. But
this is like Kid Nation. They're stuck there for ratings.
Imagine Kid Nation presented by John Candy. That would have been good. I'd have watched that.
Oh. Jesus.
He would have been. I can imagine him being like really sympathetic towards the kids. They were like, "Don't worry, kids, I'm going to get you out of here." It's like loading them onto a bus, just trying to plow through the gates. Well, I think that more or less wraps up Camp Candy.
Honestly, yeah.
I have nothing further to say about it.
Yeah.
I wish John Candy was still with us. Let's end on that nice note.
Yeah, me too.
So, what do you think of American foods, huh?
Good! Zagu, for saving Camp Candy, we'd like to present you with a pair of genuine, designer label American stonewashed jeans.
I wonder how old the kid who said Deke is now. 60?
I wonder if we could get hold of the Deke kid.
Today on the Animates, we have the little girl who says, zoom, zoom.
I'm gonna Google who was the Deke kid. Deke kid in bed. Who is he? Oh, someone's actually answered this. Jeffrey W. Kozlowski. Oh my God, he's dead. Oh God. Jesus. Well, there we go.
Perfect as a lone shot.